we're happy to have you in our lecture this afternoon on Alpine technical skills. My name is Robin, and this is Josh.
Hello.
Hello. And I would also like to recognize our teammates. I'm not sure if they're in the room. Brenna Kelleher, Heidi Etlinger, and Stephen Heffelbein, who worked together preparing our presentations for this Interski on Alpine technical skills. Stephen and Heidi, are you here yet? Nope, not here. So we're going to share with you how we look at technical skills in alpine skiing in the Professional Ski Instructors of America, which is our instructor organization for skiing in the United States. During the presentation, please feel free to contribute, interject, ask questions, clarification at any time at all. Deal? Yeah. Great. So in Ushuaia, 4 years ago, the United States presented our learning connection model. Essentially, we identified 3 areas for instructor development, which are people skills, teaching skills, and technical skills. And perhaps you just came from the people skills lecture. Did anybody just come from that? All right, fantastic. So what are people skills about?
Teaching people, not skiing.
Teaching people, not skiing, right? Has to do with things like emotional intelligence, relationship building, essentially how an instructor connects with a student or students. And then we have teaching skills. That lecture is going on simultaneously. Did anybody do a teaching skills workshop on snow today? Yes? One person? Okay, great. It was awesome. Okay? Teaching skills has to do with how an instructor connects a student to, or how an instructor nurtures the learning environment to connect a student to a learning segment. And then that brings us to technical skills. Each discipline, snowboarding, adaptive, Nordic, has its own set of technical skills, but our people skills and teaching skills are multidisciplinary. So in other words, good teaching is good teaching, great teaching is great teaching. And again, we're specifically going to talk about how we look at technical skills. We're going to look at our skills concept, or essentially how we teach, build, develop skills versus a predetermined technique. We're going to look at skill blending, so how we blend skills together to customize an approach for an intention or for a student. We're going to look at what we consider great skiing, or our 5 fundamentals. And then lastly, why, or some of the philosophical reasons why we do what we do. A little bit of historical perspective to get started. Mike Porter, are you in this room?
Yeah.
Okay, Mike Porter went to Interski in what was at the time Czechoslovakia, right? And introduced our skills concept with our student-centered approach in 1975 in Czechoslovakia. Prior to that, US schools were largely technique-oriented and final forms-based. So we taught A, we taught B, we taught C, we taught D. We taught off of the American Ski Technique, or AST, which was developed in the early 60s. And essentially, all instructors taught the same things, and all students learned the same things. In the late 60s, early 70s, as skiing gained popularity, thankful for the freestyle movement that happened at the time, it became really apparent that people wanted different things out of skiing. Not everybody had the same goals in skiing. So by embracing this skills concept with a student-centered approach, it meant that what a student valued in skiing, or what they wanted out of skiing, is what we would teach to, as opposed to a pre-formatted set of goals. So with the skills concept and our student-centered approach, it meant that we needed to be able to teach component parts and build those together into a customizable technique for a given student or intention. That was our skills concept. It's evolved slightly over time, but the 3 constants in our skills concept were rotational control, edge control, and pressure control. Those specifically have to do with how we manipulate our skis. So with rotational control, I can twist my skis fast, or I can steer them gradually. With edge control, I can tip my skis on edge, I can tip them higher on edge, or I can flatten them. With pressure control, I can make movements to create pressure on my skis or release pressure on my skis. So they talk about movements of our skis. Our skills concept was never designed to qualify or judge movements. It just simply inventories all the different movements we can do with our skis on any equipment, on any terrain, with any style, with any intention. Oops, didn't want to go to that yet. Basically, by looking through our skills concept, like I went to a great clinic the other day with the Austrians, and they talked about 2 different turns that they make. There's a, and if, is there anybody here from Austria? So I can say anything I want? Okay, no, it was a fantastic clinic, but there were 2 different turns, 2 different techniques that they referred to. One was a carving or a racing turn, high edge angles, high pressure, little twisting, and the other one was a parallel steering dynamic, which was more for the consumer. So it was a turn with lower pressure, low air edge angles, and a little bit more twisty. So if we look through the lens of our skills concept, we can analyze that technique. We can say, yes, that ski wasn't on a high edge, they were twisting it a little bit more, and through that lens of the skills concept, it allows us to recognize and talk about different things that we're seeing and doing. So balance. We choose not to consider balance as part of our skills concept simply because rotary movements, or rotary control, edge control, and pressure control have to do with how we're manipulating our skis. We don't balance a ski, so of course we recognize that as being a very important part of skiing and of great skiing. It's not one of our skills. We recognize that it could be either a source or an outcome. So as a source, if I'm in good balance, if I have a good balanced stance, I have a pretty good shot of effectively applying those other 3 skills of rotary, edge, and pressure. Likewise, if I'm applying those skills effectively, I have a pretty good shot of being in balance. So, abominable snowman. So balance can be either a source or an outcome. And then skill blending, simply that we blend our skills together to customize an approach for either our student or for ourselves, depending on what our intentions are, what the outcomes are that we're looking for. So for example, if I'm skiing on a groomed run, and I want to make a nice demonstration for an intermediate student, I might blend how much I tip my skis with how much I twist my skis and how much pressure is being created on my outside ski. Not too much if I'm not going to have a huge edge angle. If I take that same terrain and I want to make a real carved turn and leave 2 clean lines, I'm going to have less rotational input, a little bit higher edge angle, and that's going to help me create a little bit more pressure. So we blend the skills depending on the kind of outcome that we want. I look at skill blending a lot like cooking, or in this instance, a lot like baking. So we have a recipe, we have ingredients we use. How we put those ingredients together is going to help determine my outcome. Like in the United States, we eat a lot of chocolate chip cookies. We love chocolate chip cookies. And maybe I like mine a little bit crunchier. Maybe you like yours a little bit more chewy. So maybe for the chewy, I add a little extra flour. Or for the crunchy, I add a little butter. Maybe you love more chocolate, so you add more chocolate. How you mix those ingredients together is going to determine the outcome. Similarly with our skills, how we mix them together is going to determine our outcome. How our student communicates that they want to ski is how we will help blend those skills with their lesson plan. And similarly to baking, all skill blends don't always work out. Like this young man here, who clearly isn't loving his grandmother's cookies and thinks that she needs a little technical support. Let's imagine that we're on a very steep slope, and the decision is to have a high edge angle and a lot of pressure and really carve that turn, but it's really steep. Might not be the best blend. That might make it hard to control speed, to take the line you want to take. So maybe in that case, you'll back off on the edging a little bit and add a little bit more rotary control. Or let's imagine you're skiing a mogul run, and you twist your skis a lot all at once. That doesn't match the shape of the mogul, so your tails hit the bump out to the side and it kind of knocks you out of balance. Has anybody done that? Right? So in that case, maybe it was a little bit too much butter, or it's a little bit too much rotary in that instance, so not the right skill blend for the job. Let's look at a couple of skill blends here. So here we have the coach of the Alpine team, Michael, with a high edge angle, making a nice carved turn. And of course, Michael has rotational control. He's controlling that his skis don't go whap all at once, right? But his edge control and pressure control input are higher there because he's got that high degree of edge angle and he's creating more pressure. So correspondingly, I put those circles a little bit bigger. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Nice turn? Yeah. Here's my teammate Jennifer and I on a powder day making some short turns. And of course, we're very actively steering our skis through the deeper snow. We're very actively managing pressure. Not using a lot of edge. Of course, we're controlling the edge by not allowing it to get too high of an edge angle, so that circle's a little bit slower, or a little bit smaller, I'm sorry. That's how I would look at the skill blend in that situation. And then lastly, kind of a low angle pitch, making a steered turn, kind of an equal blend of the skills so that I'm shaping a nice steered turn. It certainly isn't a purely carved turn. It's not twisted all at once and skidded sideways. So those circles then correspondingly are pretty much equal. So here's a video. We're going to take a few minutes to watch a video of the movie Karate Kid. Has anybody seen the movie Karate Kid? Okay, this is the original version. You don't have to have seen the video for this to make sense, but essentially, this young man, Daniel, needs to learn karate. And so he enlists the help of Mr. Miyagi, who is a retired karate master, to teach him karate skills. Daniel goes to Mr. Miyagi's house every day for a couple of weeks, and Mr. Miyagi has him painting fences and waxing floors and doing all these chores. And Daniel finally gets fed up one day and goes, "All I'm doing is working around your house, you're not even teaching me karate." And then I'll let the video tell the rest of the story.
Training.
I'm what? I'm being your goddamn slave is what I'm being, man. Now, we made a deal here.
So?
So you're supposed to teach and I'm supposed to learn, remember? For 4 days, I've been busting my ass. I haven't learned a goddamn thing.
You learned plenty.
I learned plenty. I learned how to sand your decks, maybe. I wax your car, paint your house, paint your fence. I learned plenty, right?
Not everything is as same.
Oh, bullshit. I'm going home, man.
Daniel-san! Daniel-san!
What?
Come here. Show me sand the floor.
I can't move my arm, all right? What are you doing? What are you... Ow! Ow, what are you doing?
Now show me sand the floor.
How did you do that?
Shut up!
Sand the floor.
Hey, stand up. Show me sand the floor. Sand the floor. Sand the floor. Big sucker, sand the floor. Sand the floor. Yes. Now show me wax on, wax off. Hey.
Wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off. Hey, wax on, hot. Wax off, hot. Concentrate. Look at my eye. Lock a hand. Thumb inside. Wax on, hot. Wax off, hot. Wax on, hot. Wax off, hot. Wax on. Wax off. Hush. Show me paint the fence. Up, down. Up, down, up, down. Other side. Look eye. Always look eye. Show me paint the house. Side, side. Lock wrist. Side, side. Side, side. Yes. Show me wax on, wax off. That! 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 Show me paint the fence. That! 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 Show me side to side. Yes! 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 Show me sand or floor. Yes! 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 Stop! Stop! Oi. Dang, look I. Always look I. Come back tomorrow.
How we build skills and then we put them together to create a whole. So Mr. Miyagi taught him a bunch of skills so that he could put them together for karate. Cool movie, right? Okay, so moving along, in Interski in St. Anton in 2011, the United States came with the message of diversity. It was a time where in any given day and in any given place in the United States, you would see a ski lesson and someone would come on a pair of twin tips, on a pair of fat skis, on a pair of rockford skis, a pair of carving skis, and it was important that we recognize all those different genres or those different ways people identified with skiing. We went to Interski with fat skis and twin tips, and in a world where, like we did this year, people are on short little carving skis. We said, no, here's our message of diversity, that whether someone wants to be a big mountain skier or they want to be a racer, we need to make sure that we can accommodate all of those. It was a time where there were a lot of younger people coming into our industry, and they weren't necessarily concerned with making a big carvy turn. Racing was the last thing from their mind. They wanted twin tips, and they wanted to go sideways, and they wanted to go backwards. So how could we move with the times and value all these other great types of skiing? So our message was diversity. Our message was we can teach anybody how to be great skiing or be a great skier, regardless of their equipment, regardless of their goals, as long as we customize a lesson plan and skill blending. So that was great. That message went well. And then you guys at that Interski, our international peers, said, understand the message of diversity. What is really great skiing? There's all these types of skiing we can do, but what is the really great skiing in the United States? So, these were the documents that we used for many years. These are documents called skiing concepts. Please don't be concerned with reading all the words. The idea is just we have these documents with lots of ideas on them. Here's a version from 2005 and another one from 2010. These were never designed to be perfect. They were more designed to guide our thoughts and guide our coaching. They weren't published. They were documents for our national team to use in our training and out on the road while we're coaching other instructors. They included a lot of coaching cues. They included some personal biases, and they included a lot of really solid fundamental information. For many years of working with these documents, there was the team coach at the time, his name was Sean Smith, did a great job of keeping us honest. He would say, be tight on the concepts and loose on the details. Be tight on the concepts and loose on the details. In other words, if being over your outside ski is what's important, for every person in here, there's probably 1,000 different ways to teach someone to get over their outside ski. Those aren't what's important, those are the details. What's important is being over the outside ski. So be tight on the concepts, loose on the details. So in wanting to answer that question and come up with some value statements for great skiing in the United States, we started sifting through these documents from a bunch of different years for what the real fundamental truths were out of them. Oops, this doesn't matter now. We wanted to differentiate between technique and fundamental. We wanted not to be biased on what was somebody's personal style or their method for doing something, but rather what were the absolute things that great skiing of all ages have done and always will done. And our goal was to come up with some fundamental statements. Through that process, we came up with 5 fundamentals. that we consider true for all great skiing. These fundamentals are things that if we're out teaching or working on a technical component or our skiing, we can always say, yes, that's going to fall into one of those 5 categories of technical skiing. It didn't matter if we were talking about carving skiing or big mountain skiing or freestyle or anything that we might teach to a kid, elegant skiing or beautiful skiing, etc. And these are the 5 fundamentals that we came up with. Who did the technical skiing workshop on the snow today? Okay, interesting. So we went over these a lot. We're going to go over them a little bit more in detail with some photographs, but basically control the center or relationship of the center of mass to the base of support. So that could be that I move my center over my base of support, or I move my center or my base of support underneath my center, or a combination of those 2 things. Control pressure from ski to ski and direct pressure towards the outside ski. Of course, sometimes in skiing, we might be creating the edge angles and we're standing more against the ski with some resistance. Other situations might call for standing more over top of the ski. Control edge angles through a combination of inclination and angulation. Of course, sometimes we move our whole body to start the turn. Other times we're working on creating some angles in our turn. Control the ski's rotation with leg rotation separate from the upper body. So that could be in a steery turn, like on the, anybody ski the practice slope? Right? Fairly steep. Some of the times this week it was really hard snow, sometimes it was really soft snow, but mostly it was steep to be carving, so a lot of us steered our skis independently of our upper body. So basically where my pants wrinkle, my hip joint, is where the upper body comes. The rest is the lower body, so maybe I was steering my skis, or maybe I was ready for some speed on that pitch and I allowed my ski to carve around, and that ski carved around more than my upper body turned. So that ski went around the corner more than my hips versus allowing myself to be here. Regulate the magnitude of pressure. So maybe sometimes you see a bump and you want to catch a little bit of air, so you hit that bump, extend a little bit so you catch some air. Maybe other times you see that little jump or little bump and you want to absorb and keep your skis in contact with the snow on that. So that's how we look at those. Specifically, anytime we're teaching an instructor clinic, we always want to make sure that we bring home what the technical component. If we're teaching a psychological component or a tactical component, that's different. If we're teaching something technical in a lesson, we always need to make sure we wrap it back into one of these fundamentals. Like, for example, if I'm teaching in a clinic that we want to keep tension in our lower leg and feet to keep in contact with the boot and how we keep that tension, maybe we're doing the exercise where, imagine somebody's standing here in their skis and you push and pull their ski tips back and forth, so you have to tighten the muscles around your lower leg and tighten your core so that you're not flopping back and forth. And then you take that sensation into skiing. Has anybody done that before? Okay. So what's important is that I leave that clinic and that I don't make someone think that doing that exercise and keeping tension in my ankle is important. What's important is controlling the relationship of the center of mass to the base of support, and maybe that drill or that focus or that activity was the coaching cue that I used to accomplish that. But we always need to make sure we bring it back to what the fundamental was. So what is our skills concept, or how does our skills concept and our fundamentals interplay? Basically, everything in the left column is how we can move our skis. Everything in the right column are components of great skiing. So whereas everything here categorizes what we can do with our skiing, whether it's effective or ineffective, everything on the right are the mechanical imperatives of great skiing. So if you could imagine that the ideal or the optimal application of these skills would result in these fundamentals. So we're just going to look at some photos now of our fundamentals. Here you can see our teammate Jennifer in a steep ungroomed slope. clearly moving her center of mass with her base of support to manage that terrain. The guy on the right, not so much. So you guys look at this video and you tell me if he's maintaining that relationship.
Recovery after recovery to the cheers of 3,000 spectators. Wheeler ended this run in front of the judges with a spectacular shoulder roll to take second place in the contest.
That's fantastic. What do you think? Was he doing a good job of maintaining his center of mass over his base of support?
Yes.
Brilliant in parts of it, right? In the beginning when he kept falling, not as much, but that was remarkable for most of that, right? Brilliant. Here you can see our teammate Eric and our CEO of our organization, Nick Heron, doing a wonderful job making high-speed carb turns, definitely doing a nice job controlling pressure towards their outside ski. Here, the skier on the right, I would say, is a little bit better balanced over that outside ski. Axel and Svindal. Here you can see him using the whole range of inclination and angulation, whereas there's some spots where he's clearly has his whole body inclined into the turn, other places where he definitely has a more angulated position to regulate his edge angle and the pressure over his skis. Brenna. Here's a beautiful picture of Brenna in a nice angulated position on a groomed run. And this person from the public, not so much, so you can see that outside ski starting to move away from him a little bit. He needs a lesson with Brenna. This is our Alpine team coach, Michael Rogan, who was just in the back of the room. Clearly you can see, you can deduce from this that in these modals, Michael has turned his legs more than his hips and shoulders, more than his upper body. And then as he releases his edges, it makes it a little bit easier to initiate that next turn. Likewise here, the skier on the left, whereas Michael was twisting his skis in the modals, this skier here on the right is allowing his skis to carve more without moving the upper body. Skier on the other side of the screen definitely moved his whole body with it, didn't turn his legs and didn't allow his skis to turn more than his upper body. This is Josh, this one, doing a brilliant job of regulating the magnitude of pressure through ski-snow interaction, whereas in most of the turns, his skis are in contact with the snow. He chooses to lighten them up a little bit here, but beautiful display. Skier on the right, not on that one, right? Not on that one. And then we have another video. Let's see which guy does a better job here of regulating the magnitude of pressure. Can you play that one more time? Right, so the US team doesn't get to ski that often together. We live all over the country, we all travel a lot. You can bring it to the next one, cheers. But we did get an opportunity before we came here to ski together for 3 days to work on our synchronized skiing. And it was great because our coach Michael gave us some formations to work through, and we went out and we started synchroning and we were kind of following each other. And then we wanted to up the ante and make sure we had some dynamic skiing and some good performance skiing as we were skiing together. But again, we don't have a technique. We have fundamentals and we have skills. So we couldn't say, well, let's do our race turn So what we needed to do was talk about what ski performance we wanted to and how we wanted to apply the different fundamentals to come up with the outcome in order to create a technique for ourselves for that specific time, so that hopefully we did an okay job out there on the hill today and the other day trying to make some synchronized formations. But it was a ton of fun, and that's how we would use our fundamentals to create a technique for ourselves for this specific outcome of skiing. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt, or to Josh, who's going to, don't know where that came from, share with you some of the philosophical reasons of why we do all this stuff.
Thank you, Robin. So real quick, I just have a couple moments of your time left. I wanted to speak about why we use this idea of fundamentals and not a specific American technique. And two main points is we use fundamentals to create a home base for all of our techniques. As Robin's alluded to, we have a broad array in the US, if you aren't familiar, a broad array of size of mountains, amount of snow that falls there, snow content or water content in the snow and quality. So there's parts of the country where the mountains are quite small and there's a lot of carving going on, and there's other parts of the country where we get a lot of snowfall, the mountains are very tall, and we have a lot of off-piste skiing as well, and a lot of mobile skiing. We also have a broad array of people coming to our resorts. Some that want to be there to enjoy the time with their families and just to be out in nature and be a part of it. Others that are looking for the challenge of skiing and getting better and experiencing something new. So on top of that, we have, as Robin alluded to, all the different ski types that are out there. So there's a lot of factors that go into all those techniques, and we needed a home base so that we could embrace them all. The second part of that is we're trying, as a result of all that, we're trying to balance between this dichotomy of flexibility and clarity. I'll go into each of these very briefly here. So home for all skiing techniques, as we've talked about a couple times here, these fundamentals here allow us to apply them in a way so that we can create carving, big mountain skiing, off-piste skiing if you will, moguls, that kind of idea. Elegant skiing, right? Something that people want to just, they like the feel, they like the look of it, they want to look good, right? I loved the Austrian presentation, that they really had a great emphasis on that's something that people are looking for in skiing. Freestyle, right? All of our fundamentals, an important test to all of our fundamentals are, do they work in the freestyle element as well? And Ryan Christopherson, who's in the audience with us, was a great asset and resource for us to work through that process and to go, this presentation works because I can take this presentation and do the same thing in the terrain park. So, and of course, as the theme of this Interski is about the future of snow sports, the future of our industry. We believe that with these fundamentals, we're currently positioned in a way that we can handle whatever comes our way, whether it's another change in technology, personal preferences, obviously climate is an issue right now. Any one of those factors, we are already poised with our technical message to be able to manage and handle. Let's take a quick look at the dichotomy between flexibility and clarity. And to me, it's a bit of a balance board here that we're trying to figure out, right? We've got these two factors out there, and if you have been following the US for any sort of time here, you've seen that we are constantly challenged by these two things, right? We're looking at not only is what is good skiing and a clarity of message, as well as consistency across our country so that our industry can support each other. The little mountains can support the big mountains, and the big mountains can support the little ones. So if you take a lesson at the small area and you're getting a lesson that's primarily focused on carving, for instance, the things you're learning there can be applied and adjusted a little bit to help you ski in those big mountain environments when you take a vacation in a bigger resort. Likewise, if you're at that big resort and you take a lesson, you can take what things you learn there to make you a better skier when you're back home at your small resort. I think it's crucial that we support each other in order to support ourselves for the future of the industry. If we end up arguing with each other about what makes for good skiing, we're just hurting ourselves in the long run. This clarity also gives a sense of expertise, and this is a big piece for us in the States. We want to create a sense and an awareness that our ski instructors know what they're talking about. They are the best skiers on the mountain. And if we don't have enough clarity in our fundamentals about what to do, then we end up a little too far on the flexibility end, and anything kind of goes, and it makes it hard for us to portray ourselves as experts in the field. Meanwhile, we're on the flexibility end of things, right? We've talked about the environmental factors across the country, the adaptation to our wide variety of students that we have, as well as being ready for the future. So the big point of this whole presentation that we wanted to bring this year, so if you've been to a couple of these, we've talked about the skiing fundamentals in a couple different interskis. We really wanted to drive home why. Why are we structured the way we are? And how do we use that stuff, both on our own snow workshops and in here? And so I want to just take a quick moment and find out, are there any questions in the audience about why we're structured the way we are, or how we make that work? You're too kind. Thank you so much for your attention. We have all of our information is available to all of our Interski participants for a limited time here through our digital manuals. So if you haven't gotten access to that stuff yet, you can plumb the depths of this a little bit more, learn more about it. There's information in the pamphlets in your seats, as well as connecting through the QR code that's in there, using that username and password, and you can get access to any of our digital manuals. So, thank you very much. Thanks for coming.